Just one final round is left to go in the AIRL Mardon PC Late Model Showdown, and it's the final time we will ever see the current late model stock on Pit Stop TV. 220 total laps of racing are ahead, and it all starts now. Welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual South Boston Speedway as we join you for round 5 of 5 in the Mardon PC Late Model Showdown, brought to you by the American Racing League and Elite Performance Industries. Welcome back to it. One more week to go. This is the final week, Brandon Deming, and well, I'll be honest, I did not expect us to be crowning a champion before we go into this race, but we are able to do so just about with a massive lead out front for our current points leader. And Daniel Folds, 158 points to Austin Call's 124, I believe it is. It's a big margin, and quite simply, he's not going to lose it.
No, and I mean, you're looking at points after 4 or 5 races, and Daniel Folds has 4 wins in those 4 races. So to be able to crown that champion already, it's just a testament to how good that he's been across all the tests this season in the past month here, and gets to celebrate this one a little bit with a pretty long victory lap 200 times around South Boston.
That's one way to look at it for sure. Daniel Folds, though, he's got some work to do in our race. He qualifies 4th, so he's got some work to do in the heat race and then the feature race a little bit later on. But let's check out the track map here for South Boston Speedway. Interesting to note, this place does have two pit lanes that work, unlike Bristol, kind of on their own and wrap around one set of corners each. There we go. So a bit different from Bristol, but kind of the same concept. It's just that you don't use them together here on iRacing. So I think it's one of the more interesting features of South Boston Speedway, one that you don't use very often though, but we will be using it tonight if I can get the words out. We do have a halfway break, Brandon, and this is different from all the races we've seen this season. We've run 75 laps all season long. Tonight we're running 200. That takes a lot more tire, and we're going to see these guys need new tires.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just going to go off the fuel mileage, they could make it the 200 lap distance pretty easily in these late model cars, but the tires are going to be the big concern. Really, if you're going at a decent pace, you're probably going to have about half the tire life gone by about 120, 140 laps on this thing, and especially with the daytime, maybe even harder than that. So caution at halfway, going to allow everybody to come down pit road, get some fresh tires on there, and come back out on the racetrack. So a new element here, but they don't have to worry about the green flag pit stops unless something goes way wrong for somebody out there.
Now TJ Hayes holds the official series late model stock car lap record here at South Boston at a 14.18. We are nowhere near that tonight, running 15.6s and, well, 15.5s, I guess, in qualifying for some of the best times. And Alex McCollum currently sits on that pole time at a 15.577. Of course, we've got to go through our heat races, though, to set the lineup. Let's talk about the schedule we've seen this season. It's been an interesting one. Nashville, Hickory, Langley, 5 flags, and now South Boston. 5 very tough short tracks, but 5, I think, legendary short tracks in late model racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are going to be, if you come up with a top 10 list, those are easily going to be on that when it comes to short track racing in the U.S. And they pose different degrees of difficulty in each way that they're set up. So they're all very unique to each other. A couple flat tracks, couple tracks with some decent banking on them. Here at South Boston, it's kind of a mix of both. You know, it's not the highest banking, but it's banked enough to allow some racing and really long turns that are also really wide at the same time. So it should bode for some really good racing tonight.
And it says there on the schedule, to be determined number of lap number of heats. Well, we'll have 10 lap heats tonight, as we've had all season, giving us 220 total laps of racing across all drivers. Our first session is on track. Our first race session, that is 6 cars for our heats, and we are flipping the lineup. So Austin Call was the slowest qualifier on the odd numbers, so 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on and so forth, and he will start from pole in heat number 1. as such. Starting second on his outside will be James Folds, and we watched these guys go toe-to-toe last week at 5 flags for lap after lap until finally Folds pulled away and Austin Call's tires burned off. We'll see if that changes in this heat race and in the feature a little bit later on. Starting third place in Heat 1, Mario Ercolani in car 41. Corey Body will start from fourth in the 44 car, and then Tyler Payne and Alex McCullum, two of the strongest late model drivers in this field, especially as far as Virginians go. They will start on the back end of Heat 1 in row number 3. And you mentioned it when we got into the session here, Brandon. Alex McCullum has a huge I rating.
Yeah, he's up over 7,000, and there's going to be a couple through the field here tonight that are well over the 5,000, over 6,000, but he's going to have the highest I rating of anybody in the field here tonight. Normally I say if you're around like 3,000 or so, it might not mean everything that, because there's a good chunk in that 2,000 to 3,000 range that spend time on the sim. But once you get above 5,000, you're looking at heavy hitters. 7,000 is a huge benchmark. So that's an impressive number, and that's going to make him somebody that everybody's going to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys that do get those massive I rating numbers, they might only run one kind of car, or one series, or something like that, or at least keep it to a much smaller, I guess, selection. McCullum runs just about everything on the sim. He really does diversify himself, runs a lot of different series, a lot of different cars, and gets his time in across several different kinds of vehicles on the iRacing.com sim. 6 cars ready to go. 1 starting from the pit lane. That'll be Mario Ercolani. We will not see him in the grid as we come to take the green flag. Austin Call in control. And the first green flag is out on the evening. 10 laps. Let's go for Heat 1. Lap 1 goes the way of Austin Call out front, but here's Tyler Payne quickly to the inside. Ercolani starting from the pit lane, gifted Tyler Payne the third place starting position, and he has used it well already on the inside of the 8, but they both slide in the center of the corner. Up out of turn 4, it's still Call.
Just holding on to that outside line really well. You can do it really well through 3 and 4. A little bit tougher on the tighter radius of turns 1 and 2, but still making that high line work pretty strong. But there we go. There's the big dive from Payne to the lead. Almost clear now he is.
Nearly got him, does car 18, and he'll finally power by and clear him now. The New Jersey driver, Alex McCullum, goes on through to second, and he moves the 8 car up the racetrack ever so slightly. Body goes on through. That's another spot lost for the 8 car. Now he's back down there with James Folds, just like that, taking care of the 8 and 15 cars of the entire field.
This is a good sign for the racing tonight. This daytime race condition, too, is going to make for the track to be a little bit slicker, a little bit more tough to navigate your way around it. And I think that's going to lead to some really good side-by-side racing once we get to the feature.
McCullum purple that time through. Not sure how much he's going to try and race Tyler Payne here in just the heat race. 4 laps to go. Corey Body back to Austin Call. It's about a quarter of a second, leaning up to a third of a second at times. You watch the gap on screen currently. Body real good out of turn 2. Put the power down and started to open up that gap quite a bit, did he? And really rolls away from the 8 car. But now Alex McCullum starting to put the heat on Tyler Payne. A lap ago, I questioned how hard he'd race. He's getting there.
He's getting right up towards that back bumper, just closing in about 500ths a lap right now, but there's not a whole lot more space he can make up before they get side by side. Little nudge maybe coming off of 4, if not, it was close.
McCullum to the inside and Tyler Payne taking the defensive line around the top side of the racetrack. You can do a lot of work up there here at South Boston, especially to try and defend, but McCullum is so good in this current late model stock car, almost even across the line. 1 lap to go. White flag is out. Presented by Whiplash Simcams in heat number 1. Cars 18 and 1 out of turn number 3, and Alex McCullum's going to dive and rise to the occasion to lead 1 lap in Heat 1 and win it to start on pole.
Wow, great heat race there. Amazing drive from McCollum to work all the way from the back up to that P1 spot at the end. Tyler Payne, heck of a fight there. That was a great heat race and got me a little bit more encouraged here for this feature.
And that was just a heat race, and it was just Heat 1. We've got 1 more to go, and 6 cars on track, ready to go racing for 10 laps themselves. Here we go, Kyle Turzak on pole. He was the slowest qualifier tonight, but he's starting up front for this heat race. A bit of redemption on his mind for sure. Trevor Catalano, meanwhile, will start from second place in heat number 2. Chris Story rolls off from third place in car 67. Tanner Barge from the 4th position. And then points leader and champion, we're assuming, not yet. Unofficially, we're saying Daniel Folds in car 09 with Josh Cottle starting from the 6th position. And what's interesting here is Daniel Folds, who has won every single race so far this season, is in this heat race with 5 drivers that have not raced yet this season.
And that is going to be an interesting thing, because he's going to be able to have a chance to kind of understand what these other drivers are going to drive like. Of course, it's only a 10-lap heat race. It might change a little bit when we get to the feature. It's just going to be something that he's not used to being around some of these guys. Maybe he's got some experience in officials or maybe other series, but as far as we know, this is going to be a little bit foreign, trying to figure out how these drivers are going to race.
Definitely one of the more interesting notes that we could have for sure going into this heat race this evening for the final round of the season. And if you haven't heard, this is the final time we're racing the late model stock car on iRacing, at least here on Pit.TV, the final time we'll see it. The new one comes out on Tuesday. We'll talk more about that here soon. Into the restart zone, green flag is out, 10 laps the distance, and when a missed shift there for Catalano stacks them all up, and already pulling away is Kyle Turzak. And lap 1, just like that, Chris Story real loose, but the leader is car 51. Kyle Turzak out front, the 67 loose again up the racetrack. They're still trying to figure things out. Here comes Daniel Folds, 3 wide through the middle, up top of Josh Cottle, and Tanner Barge now sitting out behind them all.
Wow, not often you're going to put yourself in the middle 3 wide at a short track like that, but Folds going to make it work, get that 2 for 1, move up to 3rd.
Everybody sliding through turns 1 and 2, aside from Turzak and Catalano, especially this 67 and 35. They are all over the place right now, starting to, I think, settle in a little bit, but they were the two that made contact on the start. No, they weren't, actually. It was Catalano that missed the shift, was it? And Burge, got into the back of him, as now Burge goes to the inside in the 35 car and makes that spot on Chris Story for 5th. And just up ahead, Daniel Folds, you can see in 3rd place, starting to put a little bit of time on Josh Cottle, but is not pulling away.
No, not at all. But speaking of pulling away, how about Turzak, though, out in front? He's got a nice pace going here, over a half-second lead that's been getting over about 6/10 here every now and then. Really going strong in this quick 10-lap heat race.
Already halfway. This time will be 4 laps to go for car 51, and Turzak absolutely has powered away a little bit. Catalano not letting him get too far out there. Definitely keeping him within range, but maybe not for a 4-lap race.
No, but he is closing in pretty quickly. That half-second lead now down to about 4/10 of a second. Might be able to get towards that back bumper, but I don't know if he's quite got the time to make any pass.
And this is one of the longest standing tracks on iRacing. It's been around for a long, long time. A lot of these guys have hundreds, if not thousands, and maybe even 10,000s of laps here, especially when you're talking about guys like Alex McCullum. So everybody's got a decent kind of repertoire of experience. It's just a matter of who can use that better this evening, especially with the accelerated track temps. We don't usually see day races at South Boston. We're seeing one today, and, well, we'll see one for the entire 200-lap feature, as Catalano a little bit tight there out of turn 4, gets into the fence maybe, and 1 lap to go. White flag is out in heat number 2, presented by Whiplash Simcams, and it's going to be a nice and calm finish, especially compared to heat 1. Kyle Turzak goes to victory lane.
Made a big jump right out of the gate on that initial start, and just no real pressure there the entire time. A little bit of that run there from Catalano late, but really just over a quarter second that entire 10-lap run for Turzak.
A 1-minute warm-up session for drivers if they choose to use it, but not at all mandatory for these guys. If you're just joining us, this is the American iRacing League Mardon PC Late Model Showdown, round 5 of 5 from South Boston Speedway. 200 laps of feature racing coming up next. If you're, for some reason, deciding to tune out here sooner, you might do so soon. Well, first of all, that's not a great idea. But secondly, let's at least inform you of some upcoming broadcasts here on the channel. Coming up next, tomorrow night, actually, at 9 Eastern, we have got the Shake and Bake Racing Butt Kicker Cup Series from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And that is actually, I guess, on March 5th. I think these are a little bit off. But anyways, on March 5th, rather. And then Tuesday evening, we've got the Lime Rock Park for the HFL Legend Series. Legend Cars at Lime Rock is a weird combo. It's one we're going to have, though. On Tuesday evening and Wednesday, we take the UFL Elite Series to Rockingham Speedway with the NASCAR Next Gen vehicles. Warm-up concluding, just as it does, in 1 minute. Not very much time to get a few laps in. But, I mean, we see Tanner Burge, Tyler Payne, Austin Call go out there for a few laps apiece and get some times in. The best time was McCullum at a 15:6:40, in case you're curious. And now, into a race session, 200 laps. How does that sound, Brandon?
It sounds like it's going to be a whole lot different than these heat races, because now we're going from that sprint to a long way around here. So it's going to be all about conserving those tires and getting that car in the right spot. So very different style of racing than what we just saw.
Well, let's meet our starting grid for round 5 on the season. Alex McCullum on pole in car number 1. Really no surprise there. Oh, so good. Anytime he jumps behind the wheel of really any car, a Legend, a street stock, a late model, it doesn't matter. He starts on pole tonight for 200 laps from South Boston. Starting second, Kyle Turzak in car 51. He won his heat race. And starting third, you'll find Tyler Payne, the man behind everything over at EPI. Trevor Catalano will start from 4th place. And in row number 3, you've got the 44 of Corey Body and the 09 of Daniel Folds. Starting 7th place this evening, Austin Call in car number 8. He's run every single race. He's second in the standings. Josh Cottle rolls off from 8th. Starting from the inside of row number 5, it's James Folds in car 15. Tanner Burge joins us behind the wheel of car 14. And finally, in the back row, you've got Mario Urcolani and Chris Story. 12 cars apiece. Let's check in on those weather conditions here. 82.6 degrees in the air. That is 106 on track. And now these guys sliding around makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, 106, that's a very slick racetrack, very hot racetrack out there in this South Boston, Virginia surface, and that's going to make it for a handful, especially when they're going to have the longer distance than they're really used to, either in the league or in the officials. This is a very long race that they're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, this will be longer than any official race you find, aside from special events, really. This is about as long as you can get for a short track race of any kind, especially here at South Boston Speedway. 200 laps the distance, a tire change at lap 100 expected for these guys with a halfway break. Alex McCullum on pole. We're set for a good one. Green flag is out. We are racing at South Boston Speedway. Lap 1 complete. McCullum takes that first lap, and we've got some jamming up in the back. They really stacked up in turn 1. Turzak on the outside of Call, maybe 3 wide to turn 3. Thankfully, Cottle backs out.
And it's just so tough getting used to everybody that maybe you're not used to racing around out here, especially in this tight racetrack. 45 feet wide, but they're all going to be fighting for that low line in both sides of this racetrack.
Lap 3 already, you can see the 51 falling further and further back. Turzak just losing a lot of momentum here early, already in the back end, on the nose end here of Catalano. They have both fallen back very quickly, the 51 and 54 both. And, I mean, they were the front of heat number 2. They have really gone backwards in a hurry.
Yeah, not sure. It's going to be a combination of some things. That outside line obviously going to be a little bit of a hit there just on that initial start. But I'm wondering if maybe there was not so much a missed shift, but just a slower acceleration, or maybe just a little bit more deliberate of a slower pace, trying to save these tires for the long run.
This is an open setup race compared to a lot of races we see on the channel, so that's a little bit different as well. We'll be able to see if these guys make adjustments at the halfway break and kind of what these cars do differently on long runs. There goes Cottle to the inside of Call. As for 5th position, move the 8 car back 1 marker. And everything out front has stayed nice and calm. Single file your top 4, really the entire field now, as Tyler Payne sits in behind Alex McCullum after 7 laps here at South Boston Speedway.
And I wonder if that midway caution, I know it's still a long way away, but I wonder if that kind of plays a little bit of a role in how calm this front of the pack is really racing right now. They know they're going to get that caution. They know they're going to get the reset and everything like that. Maybe this first half of the race, for a lot of these guys up front, might almost act as a glorified long practice, just kind of setting themselves up to see what they need for the second half of the race after they get that restart.
You can see just how single file the entire field is here, especially at the speed shot. One car in the fence, though, that is James Folds in the number 15. He plows the outside wall there on the completion of lap number 9. Falls back behind Ercolani, now into 12th position. And it's unfortunate for one of the regulars of the series right now to be running dead last with 7 newbies, but you have to consider the competition that's walking in here. McCollum, Body, Cottle, those guys are not to be messed with in a late model or really any short track vehicle for that matter. Even Terzak, a lot of these guys quite good in short track racing, so it's difficult to go out and beat those guys, especially when they might be more fresh on a Saturday night and you might kind of be feeling the rut of things and running 75 laps each week. That does wear on you.
Absolutely can. And speaking of wearing, how about wearing on that left rear a little bit here as we get side by side racing right now. This is Catalano and the 67 of Chris Story going side by side and give Catalano that spot for 9th. And that's really the only action we've seen in terms of side by side racing here for the last handful of laps. Everybody just kind of settled in nice and calm.
Austin Call is falling back to the 51 of Terzak, though, and of course he's got Tanner Barge just behind. These guys very close currently. And Barge keeps getting closer and closer.
It's going to be tough, too, as long as everybody really holding that inside line. Speaking of holding the inside line, Call unable to do that as he drifts up, and that's going to give the shot here for Terzak to get to the inside.
Terzak made a little bit of contact. He got real loose in the center of the corner, and I think gassed it up maybe or roll off the brake, one of the two, to let it catch itself, and now bobbles down there again, moves Call at the racetrack a second time, this time with contact to the door, and man, quickly. The 8 car loses 2 spots right there, falls down to the 8th position. I think neither one of those positions really his fault at all. He got moved up in the center of 1 and 2 the previous time, and then moved up by door in turn 1 the following lap. And now you can see Tanner Barge right back to the back end of Terzak working on him.
And that's a tough spot to be in there when you're Call now at this point, because you're sitting there thinking, all right, if you use up the bumper a little bit, that's kind of expected on a predominantly single groove racetrack. And short track racing, that's just part of what it is. But when you get doored in the process afterwards, you might get a little frustrated. Ooh, one hard in the wall in the back. That
was Story, and he backs up Mario Ercolani now, and man, the 67 is really, really slow right now. I'm a little concerned he might back up all the way to the race leaders here soon. He's still 8 seconds or so ahead of Alex McCullum, but he is way back there. Now Catalano and Call are doing side-by-side racing. We've got a lot suddenly happening here at South Boston Speedway as the guys ahead of them, Terzak and Burge, are still side-by-side. Story is still losing more and more time and going slower now into turn 3.
He's got some suspension damage. You can see that toe is way out on that right front. It just does not look comfortable at all. That thing getting real squirrely.
Let's take our first Pit Stop TV replay of the night. And we'll see here in a moment. He just kind of walks the dog up into turn number 3 and goes up the racetrack. Take a look here. This time into the corner. And actually, there's some contact. Ercolani got into him, and that explains why Ercolani jumped out of the throttle so much and let him gather it up. I mean, there wasn't much gathering to do. It was already in the fence at that point, but that explains a whole lot more.
And that contact to the right rear as well, that's just going to really disturb that car and get it pointed towards that outside wall in a hurry like we just saw. And riding on board, actually getting to the left rear, actually. So it just kind of turned it a little bit. Sorry, I had the weird angle in my mind there. But yeah, just kind of clipped him and got that thing loose, and just that little overcorrection trying to catch it just sent him straight to the wall.
We've got 5 cars under a blanket, your top 5 here at South Boston Speedway, and something we see a lot in short track racing, especially late model stock racing of these longer races, is the lead drivers may actually kind of pull their pace back. They know that they can kind of hold the pack up a little bit and save their tires, and not only can they have everybody else chomping at the bit, kind of getting a little bit antsy, maybe running offline and hurting their tires, they could also spark battles for positions behind them and actually work gaps that way while still saving their tires, and it just bunches things up and increases the chance of a caution flag. So there's a lot of advantages here if McCullum is kind of backpedaling a little bit in saving his tires for this long run. Payne could be doing the same thing. Both of them very fluent in short track racing. McCullum runs a legend car in real life and has won several prestigious races, and Tyler Payne is very active in the short track community, whether it's on the sim or real life, and goes to a lot of legend and late model events. They're both very familiar with the tactic.
Absolutely, and that experience is going to come a long way, and just, you kind of throw out all the technical sides of it. I think for more of the human side of it, you start doing that, and it's just going to make everybody just get a little bit aggravated, maybe make a mistake.
Just like that, body at the racetrack.
Body up the racetrack, getting out of the groove and getting loose and trying to save it. He's going to be suited just maybe dropping back to that 5th spot, not blasting those tires as much. That's exactly what he's going to do. Just drop to the end of the line, lose a couple spots, but he isn't going to really blow up those tires too much.
He slides in behind Josh Cottle in the 13 car. Daniel Folds did go by as well, which out of everything that we've seen tonight, Folds able to go from starting 6th in the feature race after starting 5th in the heat race, and now is running 3rd place. So it took a little bit of work. It certainly was not without, I think, earning it. He had to earn this position he's got currently on the racetrack, but he's backing himself up for the entire season, running 3rd currently on lap 32 of 200. And traditionally, in the rest of the season to this point, we'd be nearing halfway. We're only about a 1/6 of the way into this race.
Yeah, still got a long way to go. And speaking of time, like McCollum all of a sudden just blowing open this interval. It was only about a 1/4 of a second. He's put on about a 1/2 second these last few laps, and it's not so much that Payne has slowed up. McCollum actually picking up the pace here. He was running around 16.15, 16.2, and now he's back down around 16 flat, dipping under 16 seconds. So he's starting to chop the bit just a little bit here and start pushing that car.
I wonder if he started the car out real tight and just allowed it to kind of break in the tires and get to where you get a little more free with these hot, slick Hoosier tires, and maybe now is starting to actually push the issue as a result of that. Kind of just waiting on the car to come to him, and after 30 some odd laps, it has finally done so as he goes to the inside of the high side design, 67 to put Chris Story 1 lap down, and he will do so. We have our first lapper of the evening as the 67 is kind of all over the place after all that damage accumulated from the impact after contact with car 41 and Mario Ercolani.
And he's doing all he can, just trying to keep that car pointed the right direction on the racetrack, but you can see that rear end of that car just swinging all over the place, how loose it is now, and it tells me he's got some heavy suspension damage on that thing and just trying to do everything he can to keep that car on track.
There's the view from Tyler Payne as he closes in on the 67 car. And Tyler finally gets the fence for the first time this evening. That is so unfortunate. It's always good to see when Tyler's able to keep the car clean. I feel like he's real methodical, but as soon as you get him a little bit rattled and he hits the fence a time or two, he's going to hit it a few more times, and that kind of breaks the string of him saving tires. And, well, there he got it for the first time, as here goes the rest of the top 5 on by the 67 car of Chris Story. A little bit of a bobble there. Body gets by, and Story gets the fence, as he will now be the next car to lap him will be Kyle Terzak in car 51, then Trevor Catalano in the 54, Tanner Burge in the 14, so on and so forth. And actually, this is a really interesting fight between these two. It's split up a little bit here, Brandon, but Catalano and Burge, they're not far apart.
They're closing in here just that little bit. Catalano a little bit faster last time, but still, we're talking only hundredths of a second. A few laps before that, Burge a little bit faster, but I think Catalano's starting to find something here. He's running among the quickest laps on the racetrack right now. I think I've shown him at the 4th fastest last time by, so Catalano might be having that car come to him a little bit.
as soon as it looked like they would have a fight, well, that fight is over, and the 54 starts to walk up and away, and I think we're going to see that throughout the course of the evening. We've seen that, I think, over the course of this season, where, excuse me, it's felt like, you know, for 5 or 10 laps, we'll see one car make some gains, and then it'll switch, and the other car makes some gains, and we're seeing that here. Catalano starting to put some time on the 35 car of Tanner Burge. And now Josh Cottle is starting to reel in Daniel Folds ever so slightly. That time, that gap is coming down a little bit.
Actually, this past time by second fastest lap for Cottle, so he's really starting to feel this car. And honestly, watching these lap times, his are pretty level lap to lap. I think he's done a really good job of managing these tires, keeping that car clean. And that's going a long way right now. And I think that car is really coming to him right now. He's still running top 3 times, I believe, each of the last 6, 7 laps. So real strong car right now for Cottle.
We'll keep an eye on that fight with Josh Cottle and Daniel Folds as these two go side by side and make some contact out of turn 4. James Folds coming up the racetrack into Austin Call ever so slightly. And Austin Call, boy, he has been a pinball this evening. Everybody is wanting their piece of that number 8 car. And, I mean, I understand it. I'm a junior fan myself. I want a piece of a number 8 car, but not quite like that. I don't want to run him in the fence or anything. I got a feel for this guy. He has been hit. He has been moved out of the way. He's been put in the fence. I think he's put it in the fence maybe once or twice on his own. He has had a rough race, and we're only a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, it feels like every time.
Oh,
wow, that's a heck of a save, though. Keep that car straight. Pretty sure Mario Ercolani thinking the same thing. Heck of a save. I appreciate that save because the first place he would have gone is straight down to the inside, right into that 41 car. But yeah, it seems like every race there's always going to be that one guy that just gets used up out there, and it seems like this is Austin's night to kind of be the pinata there here in this field, is everybody just getting a piece of him.
Yeah, pinata is a better way to put it than a pinball. Everybody's hitting him as opposed to him hitting everything else. So Austin Collins just trying to hang on to this position. This is for 10th, and I appreciate the fight, but at the same time, I wonder if it'd be more beneficial, kind of as you were saying earlier with one of the fights we saw, to just kind of roll over, let this one happen. Sometimes you got to let the Wookiee win.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of twofold. A, you're saving your equipment by just kind of giving up the spot and not holding on that high line. But the other thing, too, is as you're fighting side by side, it's slowing y'all down, and there's only about 400 yards. It's a short straightaway. There's only one straightaway.
Oh, no!
Oh!
And Austin Call and Mario Ercolani will draw our first yellow of the evening. The bottom 3 cars in this race just wadded up on the front stretch. The 67 of Story just trying to keep making laps. The 41 of Ercolani just trying to pass Austin Call. And Austin Call ends up hooking the 41 of Ercolani, as we saw there on the front stretch, all right in front of our leader, which I think is what you were getting to. They were starting to work themselves backwards to the clutches of Alex McCollum to put them a lap down.
Yeah, that was the second point. The third point is you don't want to do this. And they kind of get 3 wide there, going through 3 and 4. Just gets a little uncomfortable. And Austin Call, I think, trying to stay off of the 67 there of Story and just gets loose there. Or maybe just that car loose already because we've seen him have some handling issues and just kind of, like you said, just hooks that right rear. Ercolani and all 3 of them now really beat up there.
This is a view from the flag stand as they wadded up right in front of the... Wow, that's not how you want that one to go. That was painful. We'll take a look this time from the onboard of Mario Ercolani, and it doesn't look like we're seeing really any significant pitting. Josh Connell did take a 3.4 second trip down the pit lane, and there you see Ercolani just getting turned around and kind of along for the ride at that point. Doesn't Alt F4 actually, but tows really, really quickly away from the crash. Austin Call kept rolling and Chris Story kept rolling, but Story 1 lap down. He's going to go a little further down as he's in the pit lane currently. And just a rough way for his race to go.
Yeah, so all 3 that, as you pointed out, they were bringing up the rear of the field for various reasons, mostly just some damage out there. And now you got Josh Caudle, who is one of the faster cars out there. He's going to be back there as well, now running in the 10th position. And yeah, 3-second pit stop, not too sure. Maybe just checking a little bit of damage, maybe putting a little bit of fuel. Maybe he's comfortable with a little bit heavier of a race car. I'm not too sure, but That's a really short stop. It didn't look like he had damage ahead of time, so it might just be getting some more weight in that car to make it feel comfortable.
Could have also been for an adjustment.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's about all I can imagine. I don't recall how open these cars are to adjustments, whether you can adjust spring rubbers or what have you. I'd imagine all you can do is put a packer in, and that's about it, if anything. So Cottle doesn't have a very open box, but he could have only come in for fuel or an adjustment. So we'll see for the 13 car. But here, just shy of 60 laps complete, Alex McCullum gets us restarted here at South Boston Speedway. We are off and away again. One lap complete from the green. On to lap 60, Daniel Folds goes through to second place over Tyler Payne, and we've got ourselves a race for third. Oh, Corey Body's making a race for fourth as he slides back through turns 3 and 4, now into the clutches of Kyle Turzak in the 51 car.
And that outside line just looking so loose right now for these guys that are having to brave it up there, and that's really hurting Body. It was hurting Catalano there for a bit, and Catalano going to jump down to the inside, but that might freight train Body here if he doesn't make a move quick.
Watching Corey Body defending over Kyle Turzak, and the line is forming behind him, the conga line that's just going to go right on by the 44 as soon as he gets loose like that, and oh my, what a catch from Corey Body to not take anybody with him, although it does open the door for several drivers, and I think he grazed the grazed the sides of several drivers in the process of doing that. Thankfully, nothing too tragic, just this battle now with Burge and Folds out of it.
And alive, that really could have been just a complete decimation moment for the field. Now the 35 getting loose in 1 and 2.
Oh, contact! No caution, these guys keep it straight. Now Josh Cottle right behind these two as Burge is going to lose a spot, and oh! James Folds comes across the nose of the 35 car.
I think he thought he was clear there, wasn't quite there yet, but he did clear himself in the end, but it might not be making a friend in the process. But
yeah, Burge didn't like that. He got in deep racing behind Cottle, not even the guy that got him there, and he got in deep that time trying to race back to the third corner. Yeah, Burge is definitely flustered.
We got some hot track temperatures out there in this daytime conditions. We got light race cars now as the fuel's starting to burn off and that back end just getting lighter and lighter. So a slick track, lightened back end, and some older tires. These cars really becoming a handful as you see that wheel going to the right a couple times here through turns 1 and 2.
You know what else Cottle could have been doing with that pit stop is take fuel now, put himself in the back, sure, but that's less fuel he could take at the pit stop at halfway. And so he could try to get out of the pit lane sooner. Or take less trips down the pit lane. As these guys do not have NASCAR-style pit stops with these cars. Much, much slower. Now, I think they're faster than when I used to race them, and you'd take 2 different trips at 30 seconds apiece on the pit lane, but they're still very slow pit stops compared to NASCAR stops. So 4 tires and fuel in one go is difficult. If he can maybe make it a 2-tire stop and a little bit less fuel, he could get out sooner and actually get out in front of the field.
Yeah, and honestly, the fuel isn't going to be the problem. They could go the entire length of the race and then some on fuel. So unless he just wants to keep some weight in that car as he goes around, Folds for position. But the other thing, you talk about the pit stops, 4-tire pit stop in these cars, you kind of got to think back more to the 90s when it comes to NASCAR pit stops. They're about 20, 22 seconds, somewhere in that range.
Or the 80s.
Yeah, well, it might be a little bit more 80s, yeah. Before the Flying Aces, we'll go with that one. But 2 tires, about half that time, about 10 seconds less. So there is that theory there that maybe he's just going to try to go with the 2-tire stop, get a little bit more fuel in it so it feels a little bit more comfortable ahead of time, and maybe make that leapfrog and see if we might see a lead change here for the first time coming through pit road as we get to that halfway caution.
Well, I also don't think these guys are starting on full fuel. I think that's going to really weigh the back end of the car down, make it slosh a little bit in the corners and make it more free as they're already battling a free condition. So I think we will see some fuel go in these guys' cars. It's also more weight they have to pull down the straightaway. So it's also more that the car has to do just in a straight line, let alone in the corners. I'd imagine these guys take at least a little bit of fuel at the pit stop, whether it's in 1 trip to the pit lane or 2. So if he's able to save that, that could really help them as well. Now, I could be wrong. They could be taking a full fuel tank just to make sure they don't have to deal with it at the pit stop, but I would be honestly surprised by that. I'd imagine they take at least a gallon or so.
That's a heck of a save from the from Tanner Burge in the 14. I keep wanting to say 35 because that's what's on the car, but the 14, Tanner Burge, yeah, that thing was pretty sideways. I think if you were sitting on the backstretch, you would have seen a whole lot more of the car than you were used to go through 1 and 2, but he caught that thing well.
Also to mention Corey Body in this race. He started up front, 5th place tonight, had a really good run in the heat, put himself 3rd there in Heat 1. Was really solid in the opening run to that first yellow, as high as 3rd, really held 3rd the entire time until he got moved out of line by Daniel Folds, and now, unfortunately, he's running 9th place on lap 77 of 200. He is much further back than I think he expected even, and yeah, it's going to be a rough go, I think. You can see the battle scars on that car. It's going to be tough to use, really, the old tires, the beaten up car, any part of it to move back up. The good news for him is Burge right in front of him has also seen quite a bit of battle this evening. He's been hitting the back, hitting the side, hit the wall himself, and he's been all around tonight. James Folds, kind of the same story. And, well, yeah, that's kind of the extent of the good news right in front of him. I think everybody else in front of him looks really, really well poised this evening, whether it's Connell, Catalano, Turzak, or anybody else. They all look good up front.
They're all looking comfortable. Now, the good news for those guys that do have some damage out there, that halfway caution, obviously they're going to have a little bit of time to work on some of that damage. Might not get all of it taken care of, but it's at least going to go a decent bit of the way in trying to handle fix what handling ailments those cars might be having from the either the aero or just the actual suspension of the car if they actually hit that wall hard enough. So there is some hope there that those cars could be improved here soon. Oh wow, that was a pretty good shot there to the wall from Catalano.
Oh, the 67 holding up Turzak just ever so slightly out of turn 2. But that is how lap traffic goes here at a place like South Boston. Now here comes Catalano to the inside, tags the 67. Very close, but now Trevor will get down to the inside. Multiple lanes underneath the 67 of Story. Although Chris Story races him out of turn 2, and I think that's an awareness moment for the 67. I think you can throttle back out of turn 2 like that. Let the 54 have the corner and not get in the way of somebody like that, especially when you got Josh Cottle closing in. But at the same time, he is racing his own race. I think maybe just a little more awareness could help.
And I think part of it, too, is we've seen how badly that car is handling right now. I think part of it is he's having to use the throttle just to keep that thing underneath him. I'm kind of thinking that that's part of it because he's done a pretty good job of staying out of the way for a lot of these cars. I think that was just kind of catching it, getting into the throttle to straighten it back out. Yeah, just really work on him there.
Oh, got in the fence really good right there to Chris Story. He backs up even more away from now James Folds. Tanner Burge and Corey Body will be the next two to catch him as they run in 8th and 9th. Austin Call, by the way, after everything he's been through this evening, currently running 10th position in the number 8 car, 2.8 seconds back from Corey Body, and now about 4 seconds ahead of this guy, Alex McCullum, who has led every single lap so far this evening and has absolutely shown up this entire field. And, you know, this is just about business as usual for car number 1. Alex McCullum, always quick in a late model, especially a late model stock car. But it's interesting because he's going to have to adjust to a whole new late model stock car as of Tuesday. We've got the new iRacing build coming for 2023 season number 2, Brandon. And in that, we're getting, finally, an updated late model stock car that is up to current specs as it was scanned at Junior Motorsports. So it's the same car, I'd imagine, either that he or that Carson Quapple is running this season in the 2023 Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour. Very exciting, I think, for the short track racing scene on the sim. It's something that's very much overdue. When we see this car, this has been the same for about 15 years, and anytime you have a car on a sim for 15 years, it's outdated.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm excited to see what changes it brings to how you actually, the drivability of the car. It's not something I'm aware of, and what how the feel is going to change a whole lot. The car itself, the body's going to be different. Obviously, the structure of it's going to be slightly different. There's going to be a lot of things that are the same, but it's going to, I would imagine, it's going to handle completely differently than what this car does, just because of the aero differences and the way that they're constructed. So, real exciting to see how that works out. I think it's a great time because you got all the revamped attention for the Cars Tour and the late model scene in general. Bring in the new car as well. I think that's a great idea from everybody at iRacing, and Rebels Junior Motorsports to lend that car to be used for the scan. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, definitely one of Dale Jr.'s, I guess, passion childs, if you will. I'm not sure exactly how to put it, but definitely one of his brainchilds, I suppose, one way you could put it, wanting to get this car on iRacing, the brand new late model stock car. I think this one was also a JRM car scanned way back when. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but it's still a straight rail chassis. Really, very little has changed in chassis construction. And the bigger thing is just it being a more updated model, more current in maybe some tips and tricks that have gone into building late model stock cars in the last few years, and really the body. The 5-star body is the cool thing that everybody wants to see. And it's, I believe, a manufacturer neutral body. I didn't see a Chevrolet logo on the release photos that went out, so I think you'll be able to put any headlights, taillights you want to put on the car as you see Austin Call down the pit lane. This is a little bit concerning for somebody who's ran all season, for him to be coming down the pit lane now. But he's going to come in, get tires, and head back out, it looks like.
Wondering if he's just trying to get a head start on everything. Maybe try to get out. No, he's going to take more tires, so that ruled that out. Not too sure on the call here. Maybe it's just that car just started handling so bad he just couldn't wait anymore and had to get that job done.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. That is a weird call for him, but he's going to get tires now, and I think try and get... I think he figures he may have gone a lap down anyways. If he can stay ahead of Alex McCullum here, he can actually keep himself to where he would get back onto the, I guess, 1 lap down mark. I don't know. This is interesting. It's actually a caution will fly right there, and he is now trapped 3 laps down. So that backfired in every single way, as there is your halfway break, Brandon. It came out a lap earlier than I was expecting, so we didn't get to get the exciting race to the caution, but hey, caution's out. McCullum takes the halfway break, and I'm not surprised.
No, I mean, you see, there's been 100 laps run, and he's led 100 laps. It's been a perfect night thus far for Alex McCollum, and I think that's the second straight run that we've seen him gap the field by 3 seconds and pretty level lap counts. So, I mean, obviously that's going to be the strongest performing car of the night, and that thing's still looking clean. See how he gets out of pit road if he can hang on to this lead.
Here we go. Pit stops on the way. Daniel folds into his box. This is not something we usually see in short track racing, but we're seeing it tonight as Tyler Payne is going to stay out. I can't imagine that is for the race. I'd imagine he comes in at some point, but McCullum is in, Terzak is in, everybody up on the jacks. I wonder if Payne wants to get a lap wed, then come in for just 2 potentially. Otherwise, I'm not sure how this is going to work out for him. Now he comes in. He also could have been caught on the right side of a lapped car.
I'm not. This is another one where I'm not too sure what the decision is there. I mean, it's nice to lead a lap, but at the end of the day, this is a single event, unless you've been running all season long. So I'm not too sure on that call. He's going to put himself in the back of the field amongst everybody on the lead lap with this one. I'm not too sure about that one.
Well, Tyler at least has been here all season, just missed last week, I believe, for a baseball tournament for his son. So, I understand that miss of 5 flags. Maybe wants to go to the back of the field. He's running from the back of the field before in races, but yeah, assuming these guys, none of them came back down the pit lane, they must be done with their service for the caution. It's very interesting how this is going to pan out, and they're not even up to the pace car yet. The pace car is down in turn 3. They're finally getting there now. But the order out of the pit lane now is McCullum, Folds, Terzak, Catalano, Body, James Folds, then Josh Cottle and Tyler Payne before Tanner Burge brings up the first position 1 lap down, who will take the wave around, I believe this time by. Yes, he will. So he did pit, and I think he pitted... That's interesting.
I believe he came in when Cottle and Payne came in.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's getting the wave around. I imagine this is an admin wave around for the 14 car, but regardless, he will get a lap back and will start on the lead lap for the second half of our race here at South Boston Speedway. 200 laps the distance. We've got 95 left to go. And Daniel Folds straight to the inside of Alex McCullum, wasting no time to use his tires to take the top spot. And you can see everybody getting close to that outside wall, a few drivers hitting it, as there's a side-by-side with Cottle and Catalano, and Body gets moved out of the way by Burge.
Remember how I said about 60 laps ago, there might be some guys that are just kind of using that first 100 laps, just trying to position themselves, get used to the car, feel what the changes they need to make. I have a feeling that Folds might have been one of those guys, because he took off like a rocket to the inside, actually using the apron a little bit to make that pass for the lead.
Catalano got some of the fence that time, but you're right. Daniel Folds off and away quickly on that restart, taking away the race lead. McCullum, though, he's going to be there in the long run. Never count against McCullum. If you're doing something against the grain compared to the one car, I think you're in trouble. That's just what I've learned in short track racing, especially in this current late model stock car. He has got it down to a science. So for McCullum to be laying back on a restart, that tells me he's got a long run plan in mind and might even be on the same setup as Tyler Payne behind him, or a similar one, as they could be working together over at EPI. Daniel Folds, a Zeem setup shop driver, very much on a different setup compared to what those two are running and what most of the field, I think, is running. So a different car, different setup, that is, a different strategy to the guy who just led 105 laps. I'm not sure I like that.
It's definitely going to be a tough situation, but I mean, he's still pulling away just that little bit. But again, short run versus long run here is going to be the question. Obviously, the one car had the best long run pace, as we saw in those two 50-ish lap runs that we had, pulling away late in those runs. So,
whoa, James Folds, that was a dive underneath Catalano. Continuing the freight train, but wiggling a little bit as well. Thankfully didn't get derailed, as that right rear was sticking out a bunch there in turns 1 and 2. Hung on to it, and now they're still fighting. As Catalano, I think he's got the advantage between these two cars, honestly. I think he's going to drive back around James Folds, and yes, he will.
Yeah, that was a tremendous defensive line there. Oh, contact again.
James Folds got in real deep. Burge up the racetrack, and that's the second time those two have made contact. And it's been the same way both directions, or I guess the same direction both times, I should say, from Folds to Burge. There's no way he's going to be as kind if they get back side by side.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Folds might be very thankful he's got Body between them as a buffer right now, even though Burge really kind of putting the pressure on Body, trying to either make a mistake or maybe get that nose to that back bumper there. I think we're going to see the physicality really step up here in these last 100 laps, though. You're going to have to make some moves here, and you're going to have to put the pressure on people to get around them in a hurry. You're not going to be biding your time anymore.
And this is the most action right now, as the 67 gets passed up by the entire field, and once again is going to get caught up by a couple of cars there on the front stretch and gets stacked up. But thankfully lets those guys go on by. And I will say, I admire what Chris Story is doing. Doesn't want to leave the race, doesn't want to quit out, always knows that he can grab some more positions as he just plays attrition here versus the rest of the field. I like that. I know a lot of people just tend to kind of quit out of races, but I will always say it. Anytime I see a driver just trying to continue on in a race and make sure they're around for all however many laps, I appreciate that. As a broadcaster, as a racing fan, I really enjoy that. I say that, and now he's coming out of the pit lane. He might be calling it quits, but he did stick around, admittedly, for 100 laps like that.
Absolute respect on hanging in there for sure. It's not an easy thing to do mentally. It's also, physically trying to get that race car around the track is difficult too. It's got close side by side here between Terzak and the 51, Cottle in the 13. Cottle with a great entry into turn 1, and he's actually going to get a great drive off of 2 as well.
Oh, wow. They really shifted around a bunch there to turn 3. Terzak came down the racetrack, and Catalano reacted, trying to get to his inside. There was no opportunity, and now they're stacked up side by side with the 54 and 15 again. This time, James Folds on the outside, contact, and they're crashing into turn 3. A big one as Austin Call is caught up.
Man, Austin Call, just anywhere he's been tonight has just seemed to be the wrong place at the wrong time as he gets caught up in that, as Folds and Catalano making that initial contact and really catching about half the field left on the lead lap, all in this one.
You know what I will say? This is at the feel of a classic late model stock race. I mean, this has been really good stuff. A lot of great racing, tire strategy, a few cautions here and there, nothing overbearing, as that was a really big hit for the 54 and 8 car. And a lot of damage added now to the 15 as he got real used up in all of that. Let's take a replay again and kind of find out exactly how this started. And I have an idea of how it started, but here's the onboard with James Folds, and I think he just stays off the wall a little bit. Kind of, yeah, drives into the 54 there, and it's just kind of on.
Yeah, just a little bit of a pinch down, which the outside line, that's a good defensive maneuver to do, but I think maybe just went a little bit too far with it on the exit, and I'm not too sure if Catalano thought he was going to be that close and kind of drifted up, and they just kind of meet in the middle there, but yeah, definitely a shallow exit at first there for Folds, and it's a heck of a job by the 44. Corey Body, I think he had a great reflex there, and he got some damage, but it could have been a whole lot worse. He got on the brakes in a hurry and made his way through that.
It's right on board with Corey Body. Of course, he's been moved up the racetrack a couple of times by James Folds today, and then there's this. He just keeps on driving. He just did everything right to keep on driving through it. Good deal.
Yeah, a little bit of damage there to that nose, but not as bad as it could have been. That's a heck of a job in a spot where there was really no wind there for the 44.
It's right on board with Austin Call. He took a really big hit. You see it all kind of start in front of him right there, 15 on the wall. And, I mean, that is a really big impact.
That might be the one that finally finishes off that 8 car. That's been beat up for quite some time. Been in a couple of the incidents, and that one easily the heaviest hit of the night so far.
I'm going to look at it here. That is a really big hit. A lot of it net code, but a really, really big hit nonetheless. We've got the 1 to go signal. We'll be restarting this time by as we are working a lap 127 of 200. Now Daniel Folds and Alex McCullum lined up side by side the other way. With the 09 on the inside, the 1 up top, Tyler Payne in third, Josh Cottle in fourth. Green flag is out. We're back racing at South Boston Speedway. Just under 75 to go. Tyler Payne cutting Alex McCullum a break, trying to get him in line on the bottom side as he backs up in that battle with Josh Cottle. And Daniel Folds stays out front. 1 lap complete. Oh, 1 lap and a half as Terzak was all over the bumper of Tyler Payne. Got him all kinds of loose, and they all just tried to shake and shimmy through the corner, and it worked. No crash.
Yeah, but that's the ripple effect there. You mentioned that Payne giving a little bit of room there to McCollum, maybe trying to help him drop down to the inside, but that put him back in the hornet's nest in a way because he had that side-by-side, nearly got 3 wide and nearly got wrecked in the process of it. He's going to slide all the way down to the 4th, maybe 5th position at the end of all that.
Side-by-side here with Corey Body. That's one of his EPI drivers. He at least can trust that he and Body, I'd imagine, can run side-by-side lap after lap if they have to, but that'll back them up. Lap 131 complete here of 200. I mean, this is a long and grueling race for a short track, and we've seen this many times in short track racing in real life and on the iRacing.com sim. We haven't seen this long a race on Pit Stop TV, though, on a short track in a long time, at least with late models like this. And this is really giving, like I said earlier, that classic late model stock car race vibe, that kind of experience that you can expect if you go into the Thunder Road, the Harley-Davidson Thunder Road 200 at South Boston in July, or if you go to the Valley Star 300 at Martinsville, or a race like that, the Hampton Heat maybe at Langley. It's giving that kind of vibe.
It certainly is. It's kind of got a little bit of everything. We've seen some good battles out there. We've seen some points like this where everybody's just kind of stretching out a little bit and just kind of chewing up some laps and getting themselves in position, maybe kind of getting the feel of the car at this point of the run, because that is going to be transitioning quite a bit. So we got these new time conditions at the track, and side by side, here we go. We got Burge and Terzak side by side. Near contact there, maybe a little touch as they went into turn 1. They keep it off each other. Oh, wow, nice save. Terzak keeping that off the wall, nearly getting into Burge in the process, though.
Those are a couple of Zeem setup shop drivers, and I'll be honest, Terzak real aggressive on the restart. Surprised he's being this patient now, as there was some contact there between the two. And now they'll try to get back in line. Maybe? No, they're going to fight through turns 3 and 4. Terzak on the inside of the 35 car, and some contact there again as they squeeze each other. And deep into one that time. Turzak up into Burge just a little bit. You can't say they aren't racing.
No, and this is the definition of hard but fair racing right now. They're using each other up just a bit, but they're not doing it in a way that's putting them in danger. Just kind of making that contact. So we got Catalano on pit road, and you see all the damage on that car. I think that was just kind of a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, he unfortunately had to call it quits. Only 3 laps down. He decided that under this green flag run. Mario Ercolani, the only other car in the garage currently. Chris Story got back on the racetrack after some recent repairs, and there was contact in 1 and 2 there. James Folds not able to take advantage, but he certainly gave it a shot.
And I think the track temp rising. I think the temp inside these cars rising as well for some of these guys.
Wow.
Look at that track
132. You know, we had a race Wednesday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the UFL Elite Series, and the track temp at Las Vegas, that topped out at 130 degrees. 132 degrees is nearly the highest temperature ever recorded in the United States. That was recorded at Death Valley at Salt Flats, Badlands Salt Flats, and I mean that is scorching. That is as hot gets.
Yeah, and I think some of the guys that came down a little bit late, maybe debating if they wanted to take tires or not, I think they're probably glad they did take tires at this point. That kind of track temp, this kind of surface, and this style of racing, as aggressive as it's been, these tires are going to be screaming at the end of this run.
Yeah, you know, I can't imagine anybody really debated whether or not they should, just a matter of how they should. I don't think Tyler Payne was really going to pass up that opportunity for tires, but maybe. Honestly, with the way they stayed out that lap, they also could have just stayed out to get closer to the front. I think that's also worth considering, is if they had pitted and they were stacked up behind a lot of lapped cars or still trying to catch up to the leader, they could have lost a lap if they had pitted that first time around.
Yeah, very possible, and maybe we'll get a chance to ask one of those two at the end of the night about what the decision was there. But yeah, I think everybody going to be definitely grateful that we at least had that halfway break as well, because these are some very difficult track conditions, and maybe part of why we're kind of seeing this thing stretch out. Only seen a couple little pockets of battles here since that restart.
Tell you what, this is really satisfying to watch. All these guys going by in a line like this. This is really, really good racing. I know it doesn't look like it at first, but when you consider what each of these drivers are having to do, especially when they've still got 53 laps to go on this set of tires, whether it's green or caution or whatever, this is really good racing. They're each trying to manage their throttle and brake points and their line through the corner and get it all perfectly right. Of course, they'd like to go faster. They'd like to pass that car in front of them, but they have to do this dance. They can't get too far out. They can't use their tires up too much. They can't get too far behind. There is a lot going on currently.
And also, I mean, we've talked about the race distance and how it's not that common on the server. And one thing I would tell anybody at home that might not be as familiar with it, watch the lead car, pick a car out there, and try to mimic turning that wheel as they're going through there. These straightaways are only 360 yards long. You're constantly turning. So hold your hands out there, maybe hold something that's a little bit light even, and just kind of mimic this and see how tired your shoulders get and your arms get over the course of this. And they've been doing it for 150 laps now at some pretty good intensity with the style of this racing. Still got a quarter of their way to go. These guys physically a lot more demanding than I think people give the credit for in this kind of a race distance.
On top of that, it's not just turn it one direction and leave it there. You're correcting the whole corner, as you see here on board with Tanner Burge. You've got a lot of work to do behind the wheel, and look at that out front. McCullum has run down the 09. Daniel Folds' advantage has evaporated quickly.
Yeah, that was honestly the worst lap time we've seen from Folds in quite some time, running a 16.3, and now he's got that one car right on that back bumper. The speed picking up again, so might have been a little bit of a slip, but it's all McCollum needed to get to that back bumper, and now take a peek to the inside.
McCullum down to the inside of the 09 of Daniel Folds. Contact in the center of the corner. Dead even across the stripe. McCullum got that lap in car one, and he is going to go back in front of Daniel Folds as long as, well, he can clear him here in turn three. Maybe not that easily. Folds hangs on. Still trying to hang on, but now officially gets cleared by the one car McCullum.
Yeah, how's this race for second going to play out? Is Caudle going to be able to make this pass on Folds as well? Nearly making contact on the exit of 2, trying to get as good of a run on that outside as possible, but a big dive into 3 should give Caudle the position, and it does.
Tyler Payne didn't want to let the 09 in there if he didn't have to, but unfortunately did, just to keep this race moving. I think he could have slid up and technically not given the 09 the room, but that would have been a little bit messy if he had made that decision. So playing nicely, and that's worth it. You know, Tyler Payne, third place in the standings, can absolutely overtake Austin Call with this kind of run tonight. Very much worth it to just keep this race moving like this. And on screen, you see the standings we're talking about. Daniel Folds, 34 points ahead of Austin Call out of Texas. Tyler Payne actually might be hard-pressed to make up the 14 points to get around Austin Call in the standings, but I'd imagine we see a drop week affected or something like that should even this back out. James Folds in 4th, Mario Ercolani there in 5th, Kyle Fowler on down the line. The bottom 5 drivers in the top 10 of the standings not here tonight, and I think that's really surprising when you consider Ryan Matthews as well, being a track champion at places like Langley and Dominion, not making it out to a race at one of Virginia's most legendary short tracks.
Yeah, it makes me a little curious. I know Saturday nights out here, you know, local racing starting to pick up again. Maybe some commitments there, but
that is true.
Yeah, a little disappointed not to see that full field, but it is what it is when it comes to Saturday night racing. Sometimes you're just not able to make it. Life does get in the way, but speaking of getting in the way, these 3 getting in the way of each other. Great race going on for second right now.
And right behind him, there's a great race as well. Corey Body and Kyle Terzak in a fight. This for 5th. But yeah, second place, 3 cars all over each other. There we go. As we're inside of 40 laps to go. Josh Caudle, Daniel Folds, and Tyler Payne. Now, we've learned something in the first 4 races of the season. And in those first 4 races, it was never go against Daniel Folds. Now we've learned something tonight. It's never go against Alex McCullum. The problem is, I think it's more likely that McCullum is running with assistance from EPI and Elite Performance Industries tonight. That's an EPI car ahead of Daniel Folds. Daniel Folds in with the Zeem Setup Shop gang, as you can see a few of them further deep in the field. I don't know what Folds might have here in the last 35 laps. You know, we've learned that he's the best in the series. He's got 4 wins in a row at 48 laps tonight. But he has not been as strong as McCullum. He's not been as strong in the last 5 laps as Caudle, and he might not finish in second or first.
Yeah, just kind of watching the lap times, it seems like it's getting pretty consistent where he's given up about a 1/10 and a half or so a lap to McCullum, who seems to be just holding steady in that 16.1, low 16.2 range. Meanwhile, everybody else, for the most part, kind of dipping into the 3s. So this fall off here, you're looking at about a 1/10 of a second every 12 laps, 15 laps or so. But that's typical. McCullum just not having that same kind of heavy fall off as everybody else. He's done a tremendous job of managing the pace of that car.
Well, and he doesn't need to right now either, does he? I mean, he can kind of do his thing right around for the time being and just get himself to the end of this race. You know, I think he can very much relax. And he's still got a lot of time, a lot of physical space on the racetrack, a lot of time as well on second place, Josh Caudle. If they're on a similar setup underneath, I think McCullum can just kind of save his stuff for later on, and even if somebody were to run him down, that he's got better tires for the end. Now, you briefly saw James Folds, Corey Body, and Tanner Burge. They were doing a lot of argy-bargy in the back, or argy-burgy, maybe, as these guys run 6th, 7th, and 8th. I had to get that in there. It was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. But with 30 laps to go, they did a lot of moving around a few laps ago. You can see where they've all kind of sorted out now. Folds in 6th, Body in 7th, and Burge in 8th.
And I still love that you've got Body in the middle there, just kind of being a buffer right now, almost being like the NHL referee, just kind of holding the 2 guys off each other when there might be a fight on the way. But we've seen that contact a couple times between Folds and Burge. I'm sure there's that little bit of, maybe if I get to that back bumper of Folds, maybe return the favor here. But that 44 just kind of sitting in the middle there, being a little bit of an inadvertent peacekeeper at the moment.
Yeah, no disrespect meant to James Folds, but where Austin Call has been the proverbial pinata, I think Folds has been the proverbial pinball this evening, and I used that one correctly this time. He has hit a lot. I think he's just been trying to get everything he can out of this car tonight, get all the points he can out of this final round of the series. It makes sense. It's the finale. We've got walls closed in tight on these guys, a 200-lap race. It makes sense that he has been all out from the drop of the green flag. He just wants to get everything he can out of this race. Unfortunately, not quite gone the way he would want it to as far as battle scars, but he is in the top half of the field. 6th place currently. Not at all a bad race.
No, not at all. And to kind of double what you're talking about, I think it's just the nature of this style of racetrack in these conditions. You've really got to be fighting for the ideal line around here, and that it's just going to bring on more contact from cars, and you're going to have to force the issue a little bit more. And I think it's been an aggressive drive from Folds, and that's what you need to do sometimes.
From one Fold to the other, Josh Connell, Daniel Folds battling for second. And especially as we get inside of 25 laps to go, close to 20 laps to go, I think Austin, I keep saying Austin for some reason, Alex McCullum can rest easier and easier as these laps go by. I don't see the 13 running the one car down. I maybe see the 09, just because there's more difference, I think, there as far as setup and strategy. But I still, yeah, it's just not going to happen, especially as we get up to here to 20 laps to go. Without a caution flag, I don't think anything changes for the top spot.
No, and looking at the lap times, I believe at least the last 8, the fastest car on track has been the race leader in that one car. And I like the train of thought that 09 might have a shot just because of a different setup, but at the same time, he's going to have to get around the 13 of Cottle to get that opportunity, and that's going to cost him time there as well. So, a little bit of trouble up there ahead of the race leader. Not too sure what happened there, but Austin Call got, looks like maybe shoved up towards the wall in 3 and 4, and that's a dicey moment there for McCollum trying to navigate this.
Austin Call and Chris Story back here, the 2 last cars in the leaderboard. 9th place and 10th. Call in 9th, 3 laps down, but a lot more damage than Story currently, who is in... Oh, wow, they're going to hit again. I don't think they're done. We're going to have a moment here. Come on, guys. We don't need this. We really don't need this in the last race of the season. I think Story, yeah, that is absolutely disrespectful to everyone in this race. I really hate to see that. And hopefully Chris Story is ashamed. The fact that it's not even going to draw a yellow out of this, that is really unfortunate.
Absolutely unfortunate there. And credit to Austin Call for the Alt-4 to get out there, and Chris Story removed.
Yeah, that is a really good call. Let's give him his 15 seconds of fame he was looking for, and let's check out the replay. We don't want to give him the 15 seconds of fame, but I want to see at least what happened to Austin Call. Now this is when you see the intentional move there from Chris Story. But let's go back to this moment that you saw in front of Alex McCullum. That's what I'm most interested in.
And I do want to point, like I said, credit to Austin Call for the Alt F4 to get out of that and quickly go off the racetrack and not bring out the caution through all that and ruin what has been a tremendous run here, as this is what set it all up as they go down to the 3 and 4. And wow.
That's an attempt right there in and of itself. And Austin Call then lets the leader go by. Got a little close to McCullum, admittedly. I didn't think really did anything when he got back to Story. There has to be something more to the story, I suppose, leading up to this. There's not even contact there. I really... You can see clearly Austin Call is trying to race him fairly. And something happens, a slight rub there. And this just sets somebody off that I think should have been out of this race already.
Yeah, I think there's maybe one of the earlier incidents maybe felt that there was something to that, but that's uncalled for. Absolutely uncalled for. Good response. Having it removed from the race, disqualified, and great response from Call to prevent that caution from coming out. Keeping us green and this really long and really quality run that we've had as we get down to 10 laps to go.
That's one thing about any event with EPI tagged to it. No matter what side you sit of the setup shop, fence, anything you run that has Tyler Payne's name or EPI's name attached to it is going to be well officiated. I've learned that over the last few years on this sim, especially these last few months. Really beginning with EPI Speed Week back in December, continuing on now with this AIRL Mardon PC Late Model Showdown. Anything you run with that name attached to it is going to be well officiated, and I really appreciate the admins being on that one quickly. I'm not even sure who we have adminning tonight, if we even have a dedicated admin, or if it's just down to those guys who are also driving, but I really appreciate the effort that goes forth from Tyler Payne and Elite Performance Industries with these events to make sure they run well.
Yeah, it seems like it's Tyler Payne and Mario Ercolani that are both kind of adminning tonight. Ercolani already out of the race, so not sure if he got the admin rights after that or if that was before, and just in case. But it seems like they've been adminning tonight, and to echo what you said, they're doing a tremendous job in keeping the peace out there, and that was a great call.
5 laps to go this next time by, and the JDR Graphics #1 has been fantastic, unstoppable, breathtaking, if you will. And it's going to be another late model stock car win, I think, for Alex McCullum before this car is moved to the wayside. And in all of that we were talking about with the release, this car is not going to the coffers, if you will. It's not being archived as a legacy piece of content. No, unfortunately, this car is being replaced, just completely replaced by the new late model stock car that's coming to the service. And I definitely understand why, but man, it would be nice to see this car as a legacy piece of content on the sim. Have a new late model, maybe restrict the power, make it a pro late model or something, even though the chassis would be a little bit different. Maybe a limited late model would be better. But hey, 2 more laps of this car on Pitstop TV. Let's enjoy it.
Absolutely. Gonna be it's a great car. Gonna be sad to see it go, but on to bigger, better things, updated things, and can't wait to see what happens with that one. But absolutely tremendous drive to close it out.
And hey, we've got a race coming up, a big money race that we'll talk about in a few moments with the new car coming next week. But 1 lap remains in the American iRacing League Mardon PC Late Model Showdown. And this last lap, as with so many before it here tonight at South Boston, going the way of Alex McCullum. Checkers fly at Sobo. Alex McCullum to victory lane. Josh Cottle, Daniel Folds, your podium. Tyler Payne, Kyle Turzak, your top 5. On comes James Folds across the line, then a battered and bruised Corey Body and Tanner Burge after 200 laps of action this evening. Really quality race out of those that stuck it out. It's unfortunate that Austin Call ended up in the situation that he ended up in. And unfortunately, we saw Mario Ercolani and Trevor Catalano out of this race so early. But congratulations to Alex McCullum once again. This guy, it's so tough to beat him in a late model stock car. And hopefully for him, it transitions over to the new one coming out in just a couple of days. Literally about 2.5 days, and that car will be on the sim. That is really weird to think about.
Yeah, absolutely, and probably going to see a whole lot of green Sundrop cars there for a while too, through trading paints or whatever service anybody uses. But yeah, I can't wait to see that one. It's almost like going in from Gen 6 to the next gen car and Cup. We kind of have an idea what we're waiting on, but we don't exactly know what we're going to be getting. It's going to be mostly the same, but there's going to be some little changes for sure, and it's just going to be great to see how everybody handles it.
And let's not forget, this is the 5th race of a 5-race season. Daniel Folds is definitely your champion at this point. I think we can officially say that car 09 wrapping up a championship that he very much deserves for the Zeem Setup Shop crew and that number 09. He has been fantastic. I won all 4 races up until this point. So strong in this car. And as far as drivers I've seen in a late model stock car, I think he might have to be number 3 on that list. And number 1 and 2 are going to be Alex McCullum and Ryan Matthews, and those are 2 really good drivers that I think Folds can certainly respect in this case. I think Daniel Folds is number 3 that I've seen in this car. Just in general, he's a fantastic driver in his own right. It looks like McCullum not joining us yet for a post-race comment, so let's grab the champion himself, Daniel Folds, after 200 laps here at South Boston Speedway. And Daniel, 200 laps, no matter how you cut it, no matter what track it is, no matter what car it is never easy, but really high track temps, and you got up there and battled with Alex McCullum, somebody who is so good in this car at a place like this, and you did not go down without a fight.
Yeah, you know, he's got these things figured out, and I was definitely happy with our effort tonight. We didn't have the qualifying effort, and that we wanted, but we just stayed patient. We were second on that restart, second or third, I believe, and just patient. He ended up saving more right rear than I did, apparently.
And is that what it comes down to? Just trying to manage the throttle, manage the wheel, and just try to save one corner of the car?
Yeah, for the most part, like I've said here before, these tires are or right rear is real sensitive on how much abusing it can take before it just kind of goes away. Me and Cotto were pretty close there at the end, but McCollum's he's got these cars figured out.
And how about this new car that he's going to have to learn all over again if he wants to be this dominant in a whole new age on iRacing? The new late model stock car coming out on Tuesday. How do you feel about it?
I feel pretty good. I think us as Zim Setup Shop and Landon Rapp and all of us we're going to put in a lot of time, try to get it figured out pretty quick, and hopefully we can compete for some bigger wins starting off.
There you go, Daniel Folds, and you are a champion, by the way, of the American iRacing League Mardon PC Late Model Showdown. 5 races. I know we had varying car counts, but I mean that's got to feel really satisfying to go through 5 races. You won 4 of the 5, so an 80% success rate is pretty solid.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without Landon. He walked me through a lot of it. He definitely had my back this whole time and just put some good setups underneath of me.
Well, Daniel, congratulations on a championship, another podium here before this season is over, and hopefully we're talking to you many times in the future.
Appreciate it, guys.
Daniel Folds in Car 09 wraps up a title for Zim Setup Shop and everybody else over there at that team. Let's quickly go through our unofficial race results, though, from South Boston Speedway. Alex McCullum with the win, led 151 laps out of 200. That is a staggering number.
Wow, it was an impressive win. I mean, you see that 4-second margin. He had a gap of a couple other times of over 3 seconds. Just shows how dominant that car was tonight.
Josh Cottle comes home second, 4 seconds back. Daniel Folds there in third. Then Tyler Payne, Kyle Terzak, your top 5. James Folds, Corey Body, Tanner Burge, Austin Call, and Trevor Catalano, your top 10. And Mario Urcolani credited with 11th after Chris Story is disqualified from today's event after all of the extracurricular activity we saw that nearly brought us a caution flag that could have threatened this guy's win. Alex McCollum manages to come home after 151 laps led. You win after 200. It almost didn't go that way. I want to know, what did you see out the windshield when everything happened between the 8 and the 67?
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing there. I guess one of the kids were mad at the other kid. I don't know, but thankfully they didn't do it around me like hard enough to get me involved. But overall, it was actually a very, very good race. A lot of green flag laps.
You know, I said a couple of times it felt like a classic late model stock car race, which is a really good way for this car to go out on the sim. This is one of the last money races. I think the last money race, last broadcasted race. You'll see what this late model stock car in its current form. The new one comes out Tuesday. Alex, that's going to be bittersweet for you. You've been so good in this late model stock car over the years on iRacing. A new one is headed this way, though.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It gives me something to work on. It's going to take some time for people to figure out. You're going to have people that figure it out right away, or you're going to have people that struggle. And hopefully we're the people that figure it out early on. But, you know, it's part of racing. You can struggle for a few months and then pick it back up. But we have a really good group of guys. I think we can figure it out right away.
And how about this race, again, feeling like a kind of a classic late model stock car race as a send-off for this current late model?
Yeah, I honestly, not many people like this late model, but I think it's good. I just think it needed an updated interior and it was ready to go. But I honestly enjoy this late model. It was very fun to drive tonight. I kind of been getting back into the NASCAR stuff, so it kind of felt good to get back into the short track scene for a little bit. But this car was a rocket, though. It was very good on the long run.
Well, it's always good to see Alex McCollum log into a short track server, but wouldn't it be nice to see this car kind of archive as legacy content, maybe bring the power down 5 or 10%, make it kind of a limited late model?
Yeah, I don't think they should get rid of it necessarily wholly. I feel like they should just keep it as like a legacy. And so if you want to have fun in a hosted or some or a league race, you can still run it. But it'll be sad to see it go. But I'm very excited to see this new late model come.
There you go. Alex McCullum after 200 laps, 151 of them. You out front. That is a big, big number. Congrats tonight. Hopefully we're talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
I'd imagine we'll see Alex McCullum, one of the entrants, on Friday evening as we go to the Elite Performance Industries Late Model Showdown at North Wilkesboro Speedway. More on that in a moment, but Brandon, Josh Cottle runs second tonight. You got a chance to talk to him.
Absolutely. There we go. We got Josh Cottle, second place here tonight on a fantastic run. Josh, how was that race for you there? 200 laps going around this very hot and slick racetrack.
It was fun. We really hit the mark on the setup. Me and Alex worked together and put something just in time to race this, and man, it was on kill mode that entire race.
It looks stout, that's for sure, and the only one to top you here tonight was Alex. So a great statement there as far as setups go. And one of the things I was kind of curious about was we had that halfway caution, and everybody came down aside from you and Tyler, who came down one lap later. Was there any kind of strategy play there, or what happened on that call?
I ain't gonna lie, I just watched Tyler not go in. I thought we weren't supposed to go inside. I was like, dang it, Tyler. I didn't know if we'd lose positions or that, but of course we did it. But no, it wasn't intentional at all. I just watched Tyler not go in. I'm like, I guess we're not supposed to go in, and I didn't see everybody else go in.
Okay, well, a whole lot less to it than we were thinking then on that one. I was thinking there might be some kind of elaborate strategy, but one thing that we've been talking about with a couple of the guys now so far is, this car going away on the iRacing server and getting the updated one here in a couple days' time. How do you feel about that transition, and what are your thoughts on going away from this one, getting to that new car?
Kind of an unpopular opinion, but I am so happy that this car is getting retired. I know it's awful to say, but it doesn't drive like a late model, and I'm just excited for finally a brand new car on the sim. We haven't had one of those in a while, so I'm very, very excited for the transition, ready to get the work on it.
Hey, it's going to be a transition for everybody, but one thing we do know, you had a tremendous run tonight. Congratulations on that run, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Josh Cottle, after 200 laps of racing himself here at South Boston Speedway. A pretty good outlook from car 13, and just a really good race. I'm going to say it again. That felt like a proper late model stock car race. I've seen plenty of them in my time with the Cars Tour and everything else. That really felt like a crown jewel kind of event. If we had had 10 more cars in the field, I think it would have been that much better. But otherwise, Tyler Payne, bring this event back. Even just this one, potentially. This was really, really good stuff. I really enjoyed what we saw today at South Boston.
Absolutely, and it's the kind of race that 9 times out of 10, you go out to your local short track on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. That is the kind of race that you're going to see. Some longer runs, going to see some hairy moments out there at times, but you're going to see some good quality racing, and I absolutely agree. That was a fantastic way to send off this, current or outgoing generation of late model.
We had a couple of races, 75 laps, that would run a broadcast from 8 to 9 p.m. It is only 9:30, and we ran an extra 125 laps. These guys got a lot of laps in very quickly tonight. Props to everyone in the field, aside from maybe one, just because of what happened later on in the race. I'm going to be honest, that's the only blemish on this. However, that plays more to our point of this feels like a classic Saturday at a short track. Your local track where you go out, you see a race, and you will see tempers flare. I know we talk very much against it because we don't want to see intentional crashing ever. There's no place for it, but that is very much part of the drama and the excitement that you'll get if you go out to your local short track on Saturday night. So as the world picks back up from the winter, at least America does, as we do going into spring and tracks open back up, we're not doing this every Saturday night. Go to your short track next week. Go to whatever track is closest to you. If not next week, the week after, March 18th. Go to your local short tracks. Keep them alive. Every ticket goes further and further towards keeping that racetrack in business in a lot of cases. Whether you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, wherever you are, it could be California. There are racetracks out there. I know, I lived out there. There are racetracks nearby. This is your message now. Go to your local short track next Saturday night, go support it, and see some great racing, and let us know how it goes. But any other final words, I guess, final thoughts here from South Boston?
Well, I mean, just to echo on what you were just saying, you know, the Cars Tour is doing a tremendous job in getting everything back out there. I think we're about to see a boom when it comes to short track racing again, and it's going to hit another advanced era. But when you're talking about supporting local tracks, South Boston recently, it's come out that one might be going up for sale as well soon. So while it's there, and I'm not saying it's going to be gone, somebody could buy it and restore it or keep it the same, of course, but while the current ownership's still in place, like, go out there and support that track while you definitely can. Make it known that this is a classic racetrack that race fans love, and get out there and support that track and all the others around.
And yeah, for clarification's sake, on the South Boston potential sale, the Mattioli family owns Pocono Raceway and South Boston Speedway, and of course, they're doing a lot up at Pocono to make sure it stays on the map in the way that it does, and hopefully lures another NASCAR date back to it, as they're reduced down to one up at Pocono Raceway. And there's definitely a place for NASCAR up in Pennsylvania, so that they, of course, want to focus on maybe renovations over at Pocono, and more to the fans, potentially. I don't know what they have in store. I saw a few articles about it in the last couple of days, so I'm sure they're doing a lot of work. They want to focus their efforts up there, so the Mattioli family is not just going to get rid of South Boston Speedway. It's not, I think, any concern of being torn down. It is very much what the town of South Boston, Virginia is centered around. It's out of the way as far as any big developments or anything. There's plenty of warehouse land around it, not at it, and that they could build maybe an Amazon distribution center or anything like that. South Boston, I don't think, is in that kind of danger. The Mattioli family just has things they want to focus on and is looking for another enthused track owner to potentially take it over. But that'll be it from South Boston this evening. Let's talk about some of our upcoming broadcasts here at the channel. We did so earlier, and the dates are a little wonky on here, but anyways, you see what's coming up. Tomorrow evening, Brandon, Las Vegas Motor Speedway after the NASCAR Cup Series race. That's going to be an interesting one. I believe we're running half distance or so a 200-mile race or so is going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night.
Always, and I mean, Las Vegas is always known for being a pretty hot and slick racetrack, and that's going to add just an extra layer for those guys in those Cup cars working their way around there, and these new next gens that just handle that a little bit differently when you get to those slick tracks.
Tuesday evening, we've got the HFL Legends Series from Lime Rock Park. An interesting combo there. Legends on the full Grand Prix layout, and that is with the chicane up the uphill, so that's going to be interesting. Not my favorite layout at Lime Rock Park, but one that is definitely going to be, I think, thought-provoking, if you will, along with exciting and interesting with those Legend cars. Again, going up the uphill through that chicane is going to be weird for Legends, but I'm excited for it. And Wednesday, we've got The Rock, Rockingham Speedway for the UFL Elite Series from Rockingham, North Carolina for round number 4 of their Young Series. And then Friday night, it's not on this listing yet, but Friday night, we have got the Elite Performance Industries Late Model Showdown. Drivers, fans, whatever out there, if you are interested in getting in on this one, go to Elite Performance Industries on social media. You see our social media below, and you'll see things that we've tagged them in or what have you, so you might be able to navigate there from our pages, but go to Elite Performance Industries on social media, at RaceEPI on Twitter to find more information about this event. And yeah, I mean, we've got a big race coming up. I believe 100 laps is what Tyler told me at North Wilkesboro Speedway in the brand new late model stock cars. So quite potentially, Brandon, we've got the possibility to host, well, to broadcast here, the final big race with late model stock cars as they are currently, and the first one with the new car, and that is special.
Absolutely is, and I can't wait to see it. It's going to be real interesting to see if we see the correlation from this group to the next group. If they're going to be in the same kind of positions, there's going to be that transition. It's all about how everybody navigates it, and it's an exciting time with those changes coming.
Well, Brandon, thanks so much for joining me these last couple of races of the season. I think you got Hickory in as well. A couple of races. I really, really appreciate having you along, and I think everybody else did here with the series as well. Certainly a great addition to this series. That's it for a whole series of racing. It's always difficult to wrap up a series of racing like this, a season, but it's part of it. I want to thank everybody involved with this one. Elite Performance Industries, Tyler Payne, Mardon PC, the American iRacing League, all the drivers that showed up this season. You guys all made this series what it was, and it was a lot of fun, even if we had car count issues, and that was the conversation those last couple of rounds leading up to tonight. This was still a really fun series to cover, and we really appreciate everybody's efforts behind it. That'll do it for us this season of racing. A big shout out to, again, all of our partners here at the channel, Whiplash Media Simcams, SimRepMarket.com, and Short Track Weekly, and everybody else that made this happen. Hopefully you join us tomorrow night for the Shake and Bake Racing Butt Kicker Cup Series from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll see you there.